Welcome everyone to Authentic as Fuck podcast. My name is Sun. This is Yelena. Hello,
Hello,
Yelena.
everybody.
Okay, let's start. You know what's funny is like I was asking you for an advice on something, and the advice that I was asking you was, what do you do when people don't believe you and they don't want to take your advice? And then you were giving me advice, and I was like, and I was doing the same thing that I was asking you about, right? I was
This is
like,
called a
no
messy.
advice,
Being a
no
messy.
Yelena, it's not gonna
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. So my advice on this, if somebody is believing in something, so we were commenting on posting and why people don't post if they know that if they post for 100 times, they will hit their goal or whatever. So the first of all, we don't believe it. It can maybe happen, but maybe not. So it's kind of far-fetched. And you see that market every time I open TikTok, some people are saying, yeah, do this, take this advice. Well, I made business out of zero, so they're all successful and I am miserable. I don't know how to post one thing. And they all have professional videos with subtitles, with pictures flopping, on screen everywhere. And I just, I cannot make one
Yeah.
video with captions. So then it's kind of in that maybe thing. If I post, maybe something will happen. But if I don't post, okay, nothing will happen. So this is the same thing. So if they don't believe in that, I don't think that that kind of motivational speech is going to change anything. But what can help is, for them not to believe, but to create a system that will kind of support and a little bit push them to do the work. As for example, I have this what we did in the beginning of our marathon, or however you call it. So in the beginning, when we had our meetings, so we promised how much post we will post still next meeting. So every week you had your group that will check on you, so how things were going. Okay, so you didn't post, why didn't you post? And then you're like, I didn't have time, but next time I'll do it. And you kind of do it because you're too embarrassed to come again and to say that you didn't post, and other people are typing in the sheet like, yeah, this week I had 5 posts, and you're like 0, 0, 0. So it's embarrassing, and you will do it. So this is going to help to get to build this muscle. And that's why I think, for example, this quarter, I know this is my type. So how I function is that I need to be a little bit forced to do something. So if I'm not forced, I will find whatever nicer thing to do. So I will be lazy. I will read a book, enjoy sunrise or whatever.
Well, pause for 1 second. Nobody have to force you to read a book.
Yeah, because it's easy. It's easy.
Reading a well, some would say that it's not.
Yeah, but I'm
There are
choosing. You can choose an easy book. You don't need to choose Kierkegaard
or okay, even like you just said, well, go watch the sunrise, right? Or what? There are things that you do in your life that nobody's forcing you to do, but you do it.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah, but even listen, I'm taking singing classes because I like it. So nobody hears me beside my professor or my boyfriend. So and I do it because I like it. And I have homework from one class to another. And every time I do it night before a class because I'm forced. Even though I think through the week a little bit, but
Okay, so is there anything that you do where you don't even need that? Like literally nobody's telling you, there's zero pressure, but you do it anyway.
I will do things, but I will not finish them. I will I will, go easy. I will read, if I have a book, I will read one page and then switch to something else. And then, it's not, even if you want to, even if a book is excited, and I mean,
You know what? Actually, you're right? Because I know a lot of people who starts watching a movie and they don't finish it. I think and I think it's kind of also a modern phenomenon. I don't think people used to be like that 20 years ago, for example.
mhm. I guess because right now you have so much other options to do.
Yeah, there's so many things that can give you dopamine hits. Like,
Yeah.
so even yeah, that makes sense. Like for example, you want to do this podcast,
Yeah,
but if it wasn't in your calendar, you probably wouldn't.
exactly. And every time I think about that I need to prepare. So even because you came late for half an hour and I was like, yes. And I was reading, I
Mhm.
was underlining a PDF and what I want to ask you. So I had that extra time that I wanted to do, but I didn't because I was like, later, later,
Yeah.
later, later.
But
And
even without that, even if let's say you didn't have to prepare anything, it's just literally you just have to jump on a call. Here, I'll give you a better example. Going on vacation. Everybody wants to go on vacation. I
yeah,
mean, almost everybody. There's nobody who's like, I don't want to go on vacation, right? But if you don't actually set a date, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, one day I'm gonna go. Oh, one day I'm gonna go. Okay, one like,
yeah,
do you understand? It'll never actually happen.
exactly.
So, so that's
And it's
that's the
really not,
pressure that.
yeah, that's the pressure is, even if you want to go on vacation, you know that you need to like which place to go. Then you need to research and maybe go on YouTube to see 10 things to visit in here. And then
Right.
you need to go to booking to see should you go, should be closer to this coast or to that coast. And then you need to book a flight or to see if you are going with somebody and then to ask your friends if they want to go. And then they need to check their calendar. So it's a lot of work for something you like. So you need to kind of let's do it. You need to kind of be forced a little bit
Mhm.
and then to do it so that you can enjoy it.
Yeah. And I think people do that, like even simple things like going to dinner with friends. Like, unless
Yeah,
somebody actually organizes, sets a date, and put in the work, and say, "Hey,
yeah.
show up at this time, at this date, at this place." Like, I'm never gonna do it.
I have exactly my friends and I, so I have two best friends. They have small kids. We couldn't see each other for I don't know, months. Like three of us together. And I'm distant from one of them like 15 minutes walk. So it's really close. Uh we couldn't see each other because just something pops up, at least for one of them. So now we have in our calendar every Friday morning, this is it, we see each other. And I know when I wake up like, oh my god, it's 8 a.m., but I need to see them. But then like, okay, let's go. And then I see them and I enjoy it, but I need this push or nothing will happen in my case. So
That's a myth truth sandwich right there. See, this is what happens for me
mhm,
when I hear an example like this. Something clicks in my head. A light bulb goes off in my head, and I could kind of sense it. Okay, that's a carousel right there. I can
mhm.
sense it. I don't know how,
Okay.
but I know
What
that if I work on that enough, it'll become a carousel.
what I had on my mind while I was talking, I was like, okay, I should when you publish this, I should watch this carefully because I kind of it sounds like it's not like I change your mind, but something was there. So it means that I had a good example and then we have something So I had a feeling that
The
you.
part was, yeah, I know exactly where it is. It's when I asked you, what about reading a book? What about doing things that you want to do? Right? Because that's what we think. It's like, oh yeah, we have to be forced to do things, and we need accountability because we
Mhm.
don't want to do that thing. Like, I don't want to go running, I don't want to go to the gym, I don't want to write, so I need accountability, right? I don't need accountability for the things that I want to do.
Mhm.
But the truth is, you need accountability even for the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
and and it kind of clicked for me when you said, yeah, even with the reading a book, like I'll kind of doze off, or like, and that's when immediately when you said that, I'm like, oh, that's true. Like, people do that with stuff that they want to do for fun, like getting together with friends, going on vacation. This podcast, like, we're not gonna do it. Even the things we enjoy doing, we're not gonna do it unless it's set in the calendar, and
Mhm.
that's a form of accountability.
Yeah. Okay, so the myth is if you like something to do, for something
You
you
don't need
like,
accountability. Yeah,
you don't need you don't need
yeah.
accountability. Okay.
I mean, I'll find a better way to say it, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We just
I know
need.
that that's yeah, I know that that's a myth sandwich. I just don't know how, but I
Mhm.
can feel it.
Okay. And the truth is, even if you like some things, you will not do it unless you.
Yeah, you still need accountability, even for the things that you like.
Mhm. Okay.
That's why I think that's why I think gamification doesn't work. Like, even when you think about a video game, like, let's say somebody loves playing video games. It's not like they're sitting there just out of nowhere just playing video games. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, most people, it took a while for them to get to the point where they're addicted to playing video games. Like, it wasn't like that from day one.
Hmm.
Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah. I don't understand what you mean.
Yeah, I'm thinking. I'm trying to think about um those activities that people do that doesn't need accountability, like people who are addicted to games, or people that are addicted to drugs, or people that are like addicted to porn or something like that, right? Like, they don't have to set a calendar, be like, okay, from this time I'm going to play video game. They don't have to do that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think, what's the difference? What's the difference between somebody who plays video game and like, or you reading a book, for example? But I guess they do the same thing. They might start playing and then they get bored and they stop or something like that. I don't know.
I guess that
You see?
mhm,
You see how when you really start sit and say, okay, now I need to turn into a myth truth sandwich, and I start writing, it
mhm.
forces you to think deeper about this topic that I
Yes.
normally wouldn't have.
Yes. So um there is a difference if you how much effort you need to put into to get your dopamine hit. Because if you have like low effort and high dopamine hit, and when you play a game, it's like almost, I don't know, you have somebody that needs to jump over something and you kind of try it, and if they succeed, oh, yes, go ahead. So you have that hit like almost instantly, almost.
Instantly. Yeah.
Yeah. if you scroll your phone on, I don't know, TikTok, then you have boring, next. So you have low effort and high dopamine hit. But if you read a book, even if it's fun, you need to put more effort, and then to get not that high hit, maybe the smaller dopamine hits. So this is why I think it's more, you need to start. When you start, it kind of continues in itself. I know that when for example, last night, I was watching something on TV, and I should work on mid percentage. Okay, no, I was reading a book. And the TV was there in the distance. And I was like, let me read for 1 more hour, and then I will work on mid sandwich. But I was postponing that because, it's easier for me to read a book than to sit and think. But once I said, okay, fine, let's do it, I enjoyed it. I went to bed 1:30 a.m. So because I was like, yeah, but just let me see about this. Let me see more. So it's so funny when you're into it, but you need to force to start. That's why I need accountability.
Maybe that's why we should have. Remember one? I don't know if you remember. We talked about doing a Zoom, like a 2-hour Zoom call where everybody comes in, and we don't talk, but we
Yes.
just sit and write.
I would be the first to be there to participate.
The hardest part is to get people there, but
Yes.
once you're there, I think
Yes.
it'll be fine.
That's why even though I was alone in my flat, I was going to a library because people around me would sit and read. So I would go. I had, people go to library because they need a quiet place. I don't know, they have people in their home, I don't know, walking around, yelling at each other, asking questions. They need peace. So they go there for peace. But I go there because I need to watch those people learning something, because if they are learning, then I sit like, okay, Elena, now we need to work. And then I do the work.
Yeah, I think that's what we need. Like, we just need to get people started. And I was thinking, like, how can we get people started? And I think that's it. We need to have a group study session or a group writing session.
I think I think it's Ray. She was doing that. She had some group. I don't know what was their time. I couldn't make it, but I think she was doing that for these reasons. And I guess especially, so many of us have at least partially some part of ADHD. So now it's almost normal to have attention deficit. So if you have attention deficit, then you need more support to do something that was normal for somebody 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely happening and I think it's because of just dopamines are so cheap these days. They're everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Netflix, TV, your phone, like your social media, it's just everywhere. So, but back in 50 years ago, like 100 years ago, there was like you either listen to the radio or that's it, or you sit out on your porch and look out the window.
Yeah, and exactly. So, by the way, I want to do two things in my life in December. One is to buy a radio. So that doesn't require Wi-Fi or whatever. So just to have everything unplugged and to put radio on in the background. This is one thing. And the other is to have hours, so to have two phones, one to be like non-smart phone, and to have hours in a day where I will not touch my phone. So when I'm not working, when I need to just to have that phone and, zero internet around me because
Okay, so let me this leads to my next question. So
okay.
there's two, I think two parts. One, some people like you know that this is what you need.
Mm-hmm.
So you're willing to go out of your way to put restrictions on yourself, set a date to keep you accountable, right?
Yeah.
Because you know that if not, you're not gonna do it, right? Because like some people might be like, oh, I don't need a radio, I don't need a regular phone, I can control myself, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
but then they, even though they can't, right? They're too smart for their own good. So this is it, like I guess this was my original question. So some people know that about themselves, so they can set those measures. Like they can go hire a trainer to make sure to come wake me up in the morning and take me to the gym. They'll sign up for this class to make sure, because if I don't, I'm not gonna do it. They're gonna get rid of their smartphone because I know that if it's there, I'm gonna use it. Right? They know that about themselves, so they can put the restrictions. And once they do, then they can do it. Right?
Yeah.
But some people think they're so smart, they're so clever, they're so smart for their own good that they don't even do that, right? So even if we do the writing class, most people are not even going to come to the writing class. Once they come to the writing class, yes, it'll happen,
Mm-hmm.
but they won't even come to the class because they're like, that's not going to work for me. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So how, what do we do for them? I mean, like that's the next step, but I'm just curious, like what?
I believe in force. So,
But
because
that's what I mean. The class is the force,
yeah. Yeah.
but they're not even going to come to it.
Yeah, because my boyfriend told me
Mhm.
that I cannot uh like live 24 hours without a phone. So it was more of a challenge for me. So it was like there was something on Instagram that people went for 72 hours somewhere without phone and they were just existing. And he was like, you cannot survive like 24 hours. And I'm like, I can't do it. So this is how we started a challenge. And I survived this 24 hours. So so it was hard in the beginning. In the morning, I was like, okay, it's 1 p.m. I survive almost till lunch, so this is good. But after that, it was easy to do. But I saw actually how tempting this is. So the thing that helped me was that somebody told me that I cannot do it. Somebody challenged me.
Yeah, so I think maybe that's kind of what I was looking for. I think that's the answer that I was looking for. Is a lot of the times the problems that I see, right, is ego. It's like people don't do certain things because of the ego. Like for example, if I say, "Hey, trust me, if you write every day for how many hours a day, you're gonna get better." But or I'll say like, no, just make it simple. Don't try to like overcome complicate your thing. Like or just put out something embarrassing. Don't It doesn't have to be perfect or whatever it is. Their ego won't let them do that. Their ego is like, no, that's not gonna work. No, that's not gonna work for me. Do you know what I mean? Because that's their identity, and they're like they think that they're smarter than that. They're they think that if I post for 100 days, that's gonna help me become better. No, that's not gonna work for me. I already know that's not that. It's their ego telling them that. So
Yeah.
when people's ego is too high, those are the ones that are gonna be like, "What, writing class? That's stupid. I can write on my own if I wanted to. I don't need some. I don't need someone to force me to do it." Right? That's what's gonna happen. So then
Yeah.
we need to flip that switch back on them, and we have to almost use their ego
Oh,
And the way is like, hey, I bet you can't do this.
exactly.
That's what you did. That's what happened to you. And that's actually what happened to me too. Like I had a bet with my friend. Like I'm not really a fitness person. I don't eat healthy or I don't go to the gym or anything like that.
Mhm.
But I made a bet with my friend and I said, um, we were talking about we are having a debate. And he was like, there's no way that you can get a six pack in 3 months. That's physically impossible. Like like it's scientifically impossible, right?
Mhm.
And I'm like, and that didn't sit right for me. That I'm like, what? No, I think if you really, really try, blah blah blah, like you can do it. And I was like, so we were having this debate. So so then after that debate, we were like, I bet you I can do it. And I said, if I if I win, you have to wear a T-shirt that says "Sun is right," and Chris is wrong. Like his name is Chris. Like, and so it was my ego. And for the next 3 days, for the next 3 months, I literally like went to the gym every single day. I did everything. Like I went obsessed. I like started taking proteins and like I did everything. I stopped eating carbs. I only eat like lean, like nasty dry chicken for like 3 months straight.
Wow.
And then I did it. Yeah. But the only reason why I did it was because of my ego.
Yeah.
Do you understand of it?
Yeah. Yeah, this is
So
it.
maybe there's something there.
Imagine to have maybe for a starter like two sessions, two or three per week times to see each other. And I bet you cannot survive this the whole month.
Well, I don't want to even go there yet until like let's do the first step, which is setting up the writing class. So that at least the people who will do it will come and do it.
Mhm.
And then let's worry about the other people. Because I think there are enough people that knows that about themselves and they know the writing class will help,
Yeah.
right? So let's help those people first. Right?
Mm-hmm. True.
But it's so clear the how like, you know, how much learning has to do with ego. Like if I look in the community, the people that are actually getting better, that are actually improving a lot and actually writing great stories are the ones that have the least ego. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like the smartest ones are the one like if you look at the community, if I read the stories, like the best stories are the ones that are like just doing the work without trying to like without their ego getting involved. If I look at the ones that the worst stories are the ones that come from the smartest people. The smartest people write the worst stories. It's so weird. And
Yeah.
the same thing happens in my agency too. Like the smartest people do the worst work. And when I say worst, I don't mean that like their work is shitty. It's it's only good. This is what I mean when I say the worst work. Um, you know, when you watch those like artsy, intellectual, independent films, they're like, oh, that's very symbolic or something, and at the end of the movie, people are going like, I don't get it, right? Those kind of movie. But like all the critics are saying, oh, it was amazing, and this, like this is so good, or blah blah blah. Like those movies are never like, for example, have you ever seen No Country for Old Men? No, actually, that's a bad example because that movie actually is good. I mean, it's like also entertaining too. But like, there are movies like that where all the critics love and all the filmmakers love it, but it's not popular. It's never a hit, right?
Mhm,
It doesn't do well.
mhm. I see.
And then you look at a movie like Marvel's, like like Iron Man and those kind of movies, which is like a huge hit box office and everybody loves them. But then, like people like Martin Scorsese, like that's not a real film, right? Like the real filmmakers like don't think that those are the best, right? But I think the same thing is happening, like with the content creating and just in everything in general. Like people are too smart for their own good. They don't understand that you actually have to. Good doesn't necessarily mean smart.
Yeah.
But there's a tweet right there. Like good content doesn't mean smart content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I actually think that's actually a good way to look at it. Like, if you're trying to make smart content, that means you're doing it for yourself. It's for selfish reasons. If you really want to make, if you're really doing it for selfless reasons, where you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to help others, then you wouldn't make smart content. You would make good content,
Yeah.
right? Because you know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's easier to make smart content than good content. I think this is the reason why I personally don't post, because I don't think that my content is good. But I know that you will say you need to
No,
post it.
you don't think that your content is smart. It's not that you don't think that your content is good. You don't think that your content is smart.
You think that?
Well, that's why you don't. What? Oh, sorry. Well, I don't know. Maybe you were trying to say the opposite. Like you think that your content is not good enough.
I think it's easy to make smart content, to sound smart, to put so many words there. This is easy. And I don't like to see it. So I personally would not look at that type of content. But
Wait, you would like to, as a content consumer, you want to see smart content or you want to see good content?
good content. I mean, I want to here and there see smart content for theoretical purposes, but to create smart content, it's so boring for me. So there is like a zero soul that I invest there. And I will do that just for the sake of some outcome in the future. And that's why it's so hard for me to do it. So but what really helped me through our conversations so far was that critical thinking concept. Like in general, I kind of right now it's obvious for me what I was searching for. So I was searching for learning critical thinking because I see now I follow some accounts on TikTok where people are discussing some trends. Maybe you heard from Matt Walsh or some. So they're commenting on things. Like somebody say something that doesn't make sense, but it's their argument and they want to debunk it with another example. So they're using this for political purposes and I don't know, some social culture purposes. And this is actually what makes sense, how to debunk somebody. So I didn't know that before I had so many conversations with you.
You
So
mean like
it's
you have to use examples?
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, of course. Yeah, that I think that's actually where most people are struggling in Night Owl community is people are really having a hard time coming up with examples.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because they're trying to come up with the examples on the spot rather than, because I think what needs to happen is you have to constantly be looking for examples all the time, every day, all day in your life, everyday life. And then when you write, all you're doing is you're just picking one of those examples. But I feel like what they're trying to do is they've already decided on the point they want to make, even though they have no examples. And then they're trying to force an example into it.
Yeah.
And that's just not going to work.
Yeah, but just to say, this is totally, at least for me, it's so normal to try to do it because, you know, you're in this concept for, I don't know, a decade or 2 decades, but we are here only for 1 year maximum. So we kind of want to be good students and to put things into, to have a myth, to have a truth, and to figure out example. So I mean, this is the path.
I actually think that you prefer to consume smart content, not good content.
Why do you think so?
Because good content is actually the ones that are like dumb. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like the one where, you know, somebody come like, yeah, good content. I don't know. I like when, yeah, actually I don't know, to be honest.
You know, you need to consume both because if you consume smart content, this will give you theoretical perspective, but you need to transform smart to good. So it needs to go through your filters because I think that so many content out there has a good point, but it's so
Like,
boring.
okay, Jordan Peterson's content, is it smart or is it good?
Um, well, I don't consume his content so much, to be honest.
Like the ones you have seen.
Mm, I would say it's more good.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. Actually, good content are the smartest content. And
Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm trying to explain. The like for me,
But you know what?
Jordan Peters.
Please give me just a second. So Jordan Peterson, he's creating, when you listen to him, this when he explains something, he doesn't have like introduction, the backstory, the what is this connected to. He just have like ping, this is it, an opinion on something.
No, he doesn't. No, he has all those. He has the premise, the backstory. He has the whole thing.
I don't have that impression because maybe I'm not saying that he's just saying things out there, but in terms of how I imagine smart content is like a, I don't know, lesson, like a chapter from a book on some topic. So you have that kind of introduction. So we are talking about this. When you do this, it happens like this. La 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 la. It is boring, but it kind of give you broader picture. But from that broader picture, he's choosing the
No, no,
essence,
okay.
showing you that.
In your opinion, what's a smart content on TikTok or Reels? What's a smart content that's done within 60 seconds?
Mm, for example, five ways that you can help yourself if you have anxiety attack, panic attack. for example.
Okay, like to me, that's a dumb content. But those are the content that works well.
Or I don't know if you have if your nervous system is in fight or flight, this is how this is connected to your I don't know, neurons or
Yeah,
something.
okay. Yeah, that's smart content that nobody consumes, nobody cares about. But here's the thing. Like I think that people watch somebody like Jordan Peterson, and there's two ways you listen to him, and there's two ways you can. Okay, you watch Jordan Peterson, and there are people who thinks that the reason, like they hear it's like, oh wow, that's brilliant, that's good, 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 and they think that the reason why it's good is because Jordan Peterson is so eloquent, and he uses this like really academic words, and and that's the reason why they think it's good. So what they do is but the truth is, the reason why Jordan Peterson's content is so good is because the core idea is good. And he can take the core idea and articulate it. He can take the thing that everyone's already been feeling because it's the core idea is universal. It's actually human. It he understands psychology. He can take the core idea that everyone's been feeling, oh, I felt that way, and he can articulate it in a way that people are like, oh, I've always felt that way, but I didn't know how to word it. But he articulated it perfectly for me.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's what
yeah.
makes his content good, right? But what people think, they look at that on the surface level, they think what makes him good is that he knows how to articulate and use these fancy words and things like that. So now they go out and they try to make a content using these fancy words when they don't even have the core idea or concept. So it's
Okay.
like they don't have the foundation. They just have fancy words now. And those are, to me, those are the worst kind of content. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I actually think that, you know, like, I actually think that if you have the foundation, the core idea, you don't even have to use fancy words. You can talk like a 6-year-old and it'll still be good.
So how do you think he comes up to a good idea, to a core idea?
Like Jordan Peterson, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but because that's his job. Like he
Yeah.
didn't get there overnight.
The thing is, you need smart content, and then you need to polish your filters. If my only filter that I have if I consume smart content is repetition, then my tool of box is too simple. So then I need to have I don't know, critical thinking. Then like these tips that you gave to us, how to make a point and how to come to an example. How to kill the darlings. So these are filters. How to talk about it more time and to get the feedback. Who to ask for feedback. So these are all filters.
I don't know what that means.
You need to start from smart content. My opinion is that you need to start from smart content so that you can create good content.
No, I don't
So
think so. Because I hate smart content, and it's the kind of content that I like. I hated school. I hate academic books. I never read academic books. I actually don't read any books. Like I consume zero smart content. So if you start talking to me about some theory or something like that, and like, okay, I don't care. Like I can only consume stuff, and I can only like I only want to hear things if I can connect it to my own personal experience. Like, okay, I know that in my heart that's true. You can give me all the academic theories and stuff like that. If I can't relate to it, then I'll just ignore it.
Do you think that anybody can do the same as you?
Yeah, of course. Like, and that's why I'm not really like a big fan of like people who speak academics and talk about all these academics when they have no real life experience. Because I think real life experience is how you connect the dot between that academic idea. And like a lot of the things that I find out, like a lot of the content that I say, or a lot of
Mhm.
the things that I say, I didn't read it from a book. I just said it because I personally experienced it and I've seen it around me, and then I'll say it. And then somebody will come to me and be like, "Oh yeah, that's the Dunning-Kruger effect, or that's this theory." And I'm like, "Okay, I had no idea." Right? It's usually like I feel it and I talk about something that I know to be true in my heart. And then somebody will come and say, "Oh, that's this theory from this guy." I'm like, "Okay, I don't give a shit." Like I somehow I reached the same conclusion, right, from my own experience, right? But if I were to start from the theory and work back, that's stupid. Like, why the fuck, why would I do that? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but okay.
And I think right now the problem is a lot of people start from the theory, and
I
then therefore they don't really know what it means.
okay. So what is your advice for me? Because I'm starting from theory, and I have believed that there are some things that are maybe at least established in some circles. If I think about psychotherapy, if we think about how brain works, how I don't know, different type of therapies, different techniques, um, early development theories on attachment, early attachment, and traumas that develop from those experiences. So this is theory. So what's your advice for me? Because I start from that place and then I connect what makes sense. I don't I don't adapt like everything, but some things I definitely start from theory.
I mean, I guess you can start from theory, but it's a waste of your time because without actually experiencing it, the theory doesn't mean anything. It's like I can read a, I can read uh all the books in the world about skiing, and then you can talk to, and then imagine me trying to teach somebody how to ski versus somebody who's been skiing for 10 years and then trying to teach somebody how to ski, right? It's going to be totally different. And even if I read all the books on skiing, I still have to ride the ski and experience it before I can actually understand it. So it's kind of like this, right? When I try to teach somebody how to code, and I say, I say all the shit like, oh, we use object-oriented programming because it organizes the code so that later on, um, when the application gets really big and complex, that we know that this function does this function does this, that this function does. It's like everything is organized. So when I say that, like you're probably going like, what? Okay, 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 whatever. That makes sense, but you don't really know what I mean.
Yeah.
You don't really know what I mean in your body, right? But if I sit you in my company and then you have to code for a year, where you've been working on this website and okay, like, and you didn't really organize it, and later on when client says like, oh, this, can you change this, and then like now you have to go search for it and be like, oh, but this is broken because this is related to this and this is related, and you try to do that, and you've been struggling for a year, and then I say, hey, this is why you need to use object oriented programming, blah, blah, blah. You're gonna be like, oh my gosh, that makes sense because you've actually struggle through it, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. I can tell you the theory. It's just going to go in one ear and out the other if you don't actually understand what it means. But then once you've struggled with it and once you've felt the pain, and then I give you the solution,
Mm-hmm.
then it's going to be like, oh, of course. And I think that's what theory is. Like a theory is the solution to a problem. And that solution doesn't mean anything unless you've experienced the problem.
I mean, it's different when a problem is a program and when a problem is a person.
No, the problem here is not a program. It is a person. But because this person doesn't understand the
Yeah.
importance of object-oriented programming, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's because they don't, they haven't had that. Like if I, if you've never been on a bicycle and I tell you, oh, you have to speed up in order to not fall, that doesn't mean anything to you. But if I force you to go on a bicycle for 5 days straight and you've been falling, and I say you have to speed up, and then you're gonna be like, oh yeah, I get what you mean now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's why people usually like, that's why people say that. It's like, oh, I get what you mean now. Well, you didn't get it before because you haven't experienced it. Like you like I can't, do you understand? I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to think of
So you're giving me obvious example when somebody is struggling, and then you give them theory of how bike works, for example. This is
yeah,
when
then it makes sense. Then people will get it. But what people are trying to do is they're trying to talk
yeah,
about the theory when they've never been on the bike. Then you're not going to be
I
able to say it the right
yeah,
way.
I
You're not.
understand. Yeah, I understand that. So the thing is, I don't know if we disagree on this. My opinion is that even if you practice, so you need theory to combine that with one another, because if you don't have a theory, then
I know, but what I'm saying is the theory comes after, not before. I mean, it can come before too, but it's you're just in my opinion, like I think I'm wasting time because I can say
I see that.
I
Okay, okay.
can.
I think I agree with you
Okay,
because
here's a perfect example.
you know,
Here's a perfect example. Like, no, you have to let me speak. Here's a perfect example. In the writing, in our assignments, I can
okay.
keep saying, kill your darlings, kill your darlings, kill your darlings. Nobody actually knows what that really means. They're like, oh, I think I get it. Oh, yeah, I think I need to do that, but I don't really get it because they're not clearly not doing it. But then when I say, now go edit other people's stories and then come back and try to edit your own story. And
Mm-hmm.
then if I say kill your darlings, then they're like, oh shit, I get what you mean now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, they haven't experienced it because they like they have to see it for themselves and feel it for themselves before they get the theory, you know?
Yeah. So I remember when I was working for quite some time, and then I was reading a book from some psychotherapist, and he was explaining. So I kind of didn't know. I noticed that you kind of you can sense the connection with your client, if the connection is good, if you have the conversation flowing, um, going well, or you kind of stumble, you don't understand each other, or you don't get what they need. So you can sense that. And so then I was reading a theory from that psychologist, and he was saying, so in the beginning, the first thing you need to do when you approach a client is to do it's called kind of inquiry. So show your genuine interest in this person. try not to try to approach it as you don't know this person, as you because you don't. So you ask open questions and you build this relationship. I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing next. The second is specification. So once you explore it, then you kind of get it, but then repeat that what you said and say, does this mean that? So you kind of narrow it down. I was like, okay, I'm doing this as well, because you kind of need to at certain point to see if you get this person or not. And then the third thing is, so if you get confirmation from another person, then you can slowly do confrontation. So this is the place when you can confront other person. But if you didn't come to a specification that you actually understand and you confront the person, then you will kind of mismatch, because this person doesn't get me and they confront me. So you lost the relationship at that moment. Tiny bit of relationship. Like, okay, this makes sense. I mean, this is what I'm doing.
So you've
But
connected the theory to an actual experience that you felt.
yes,
Right?
I didn't know what I was doing. I couldn't say that
Mhm.
in my words. I just wanted for a conversation to go well. You kind of
Mhm.
have hopes that you will understand that person, and you try your best to see if you can get that person or not. And if you don't, then you say, okay, maybe I didn't understand you. Tell me more. So you come back actually to the first step without knowing that you came back to that inquiry part. But then I was talking to a new therapist. She had just started her practice, and she wanted to kind of go through these, like what she should do when she has a client. And I noticed how actually worried she is, because she needs to, okay, so when I do inquiries, so there is a nodding, there is this, you need to show that you're interested, and the whole forced part, because this is what theories say. And this is when theory comes before the person, that it needs to be like natural in the first place. And then, you can do the technique, but, only if it's kind of vibing with you. But they're so worried with theory that they lost in that fulfilling what, theory is requiring. So this is when theory doesn't make this point. And this is what you wanted to say. I think this is what this
Now
was.
imagine that person who's only had theory and hasn't really experienced it, right? Now imagine that person trying to teach that.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be. That's when. That's the.
You have
Now when
then you
that person is trying to teach. Well, let me finish.
sorry.
Now when that person is trying to teach that, what's happening is it's a theory without experience. And to me, that's the kind of content everyone makes. They don't even actually learn it for themselves, but they're trying to make it sound complex. So it's completely disconnected.
Yeah.
It's kind of like this. Tell me the story of like you told me this one story of like you doing this practice with the client where you're sitting on a chair
Hmm.
and then the teacher was like telling you that you did it wrong or something like that. I remember. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
What?
You were doing this exercise as like part of your training or something like that,
Yeah.
where you had to have somebody sit on a chair, and then supposed to do this exercise, and the teacher was saying that you did it wrong or something like that, or you were trying to get them to. You don't remember?
Doesn't sound like my story. I don't know. Maybe
No, it's 100% your story,
tell
and
me.
I'm trying to remember. I thought if I say it that it'll trigger something in your mind, but I think you said that you were supposed to follow this step-by-step instruction that this teacher gave you, and you actually went against it because it wasn't working for you. Like you were supposed to.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, 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 yeah. I
Can you
wasn't
tell?
doing.
Can you remind me what it was?
Yeah, I know that. So I don't know. There are multiple things about techniques. So there is one that I don't know what is the exactly what I told you, but there is a technique about that you do on chair, and then so you have a client that is having problem with some person or some interact in their mind, and what you do, you put a chair and then put that interact on the chair. So then the client needs to uh, stand up and sit down on another chair and to say what they think, from that kind of different role. And I wanted to do that technique, but the moment when a person needs to stand up and to sit on another chair, it was so awkward, because like you're forcing a person to kind of do something, and then they cannot go into that role, and the exercise not having their own fulfilling their purposes. So I told to my, I don't know, to my supervisor that actually I am not doing it because I don't know, it doesn't work for me. So this is the story. um
And what did your supervisor say?
well, she just explored it, but she didn't, she was like, fine, okay. She asked like what happened, why maybe this is not working for this person, but you know I don't know, she just
Maybe
lets me.
this is not the same story because I don't remember the story like that. Because the story was something like, um, this is what we were talking about. The supervisor or this teacher told you, it was like you, it wasn't just you, it was you and a group of other people too. Like told you to try this thing, but then it didn't work for you, right? And then now you came back and you were sharing it. And or sharing or something like that. And you wanted to say, you wanted to bring up, you wanted to ask question about this, or you wanted to say, oh, I don't know if that, for me, I don't, that it didn't work or it didn't happen, because everybody was saying like how it worked. And for
Mhm.
you, it didn't work. So you wanted to bring it up, but you didn't because you were like, oh, maybe it's just me. And then later on, you realized the reason why it wasn't working. And then you found out more about it later on. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Know the story, but I mean, it would happen many times that I have that feeling, but I don't recall that exact story.
We were talking about why people don't ask questions or why people don't speak up in a room, because they think that they're the only ones who have this issue. And like I remember, like you said, later on, you actually found out that that teacher was wrong. And the reason why is because that teacher was keep trying to force this theory on you. And they didn't know this, that the theory has nuances. Like it doesn't work. The reason why, it's one thing to know this theory, and it's another thing to understand all the nuanced details of why this theory works and why it doesn't work. Because then you can make exceptions and you can make these quick decisions. I wish I can remember what you said.
I don't know. I know that I applied this technique in different way.
I
So,
think it was something with the chair.
okay.
But one thing I'm sure is that you thought you were doing it wrong because of this thing that this thing that the teacher was saying or the supervisor was saying, and everybody's just agreeing with it. So you thought you were the one who was doing it wrong. But later on, you read this other concept, and then you realize that you are not actually doing it wrong. It, do you
Now
remember this?
it's kind of familiar. Maybe I was telling you like story that just happened because I kind of have it blurry, like it's vague. It happens sometimes, and I kind of remember I have feeling that is familiar that we talked, but I cannot recall what I read and what happened.
Yeah, I don't remember what the theory was actually, but whatever it was when you said that, that's a perfect example of why theory is useless without an actual experience. Because that teacher, whatever that supervisor who was telling you that stuff, he's basically regurgitating theory from a book that he read somewhere without
Mhm.
actually experiencing and understanding the nuance, all the little intricacies, the details of that, why it works, why it doesn't work, and in what cases it works, in what cases it doesn't work. And there's a million different case scenarios. And unless you've actually personally experienced it, the theory is actually going to be that maybe the theory is right, but you're going to teach it the completely wrong way. And when the students are doing it wrong, you're not even going to know that they're doing it wrong because
Mm.
all you know is the theory. So it's actually more hurtful to teach a theory when you haven't experienced it.
I don't remember that, but I remember because I get in touch with young students that are just started psychotherapy education, and there is a topic of contracts that when I was in education process, it was like when a person come, you need to create like an alliance and a contract, which means to see what you're working on. And I was like, okay, so need to have to establish a goal like specified in positive way said to know what you're working on, so every time you're coming back, you know, to see if you're on track. But then in reality you have people that don't know why they came there, or when they come they think they come because of, I don't know, stress at work, but this is totally irrelevant. So they have like core issue with their partner and they're almost splitting up. They don't know how to talk, but they are like, I'm so stressed at my work. I cannot, I'm in burnout. So then you have a problem that should be a contract, but actually is not. So I had this one new student client that she said, like, we're now studying contracts. And I was asking, I was like, I was telling my professor, you know, I'm going to yell at her. And, you know, we don't have this kind of contracts, how this works. So she's kind of coming back to ask me, like, we will make a contract. So then in practice, you see that this doesn't work. So I had maybe two clients with whom this worked, to have a goal and to talk about that. And so with one of them, only quite some time after, when they got relaxed, we could loosen up a little bit and open core issues. So we were on the surface because this is what they were allowing us to work on, and this is what the client wanted to work on. So in theory is that, and my professor would say,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you should make a contract. In practice, you need to explore.
Yeah, it's completely different. Yeah, like it's everything sounds perfect in theory until you actually try to, like actually do it, and that's when you hit the wall, right? Like that's when shit is gonna hit the fan, and you like that's why you need to,
And
yeah.
many times it happened that, you know, when you come to your supervisor, the first question is, okay, so we are here for supervision. So so we have this, I don't know, client. So what's the contract? So this is the first question. And many times, and I was talking to some other colleagues that are also experienced, so how they work on this, they're like, I don't know. I don't know what's exactly contract. So we have this topic that is like present right now, but you know, few topics are popping up all the time. So you naturally use what they are giving to you right now. but it's not like out of the blue sky. You have like three topics that are there, and you're juggling them around according to the vibe of the, person, what is happening in their life. So when your supervisor is asking, so what's the contract, you need to say, yeah, we are working on and to have some established answer, because this is what theory requires. She needs to check the box. Oh, okay, this person has a contract, so right, let's go.
Yeah. So I think this is the thing. The person who has all the theory but hasn't experienced, right? To me, smart content is all just theory based. They've never experienced it. They're just using these words that they read in a textbook or something like that, and they're just regurgitating. They don't even know. They haven't even really learned a lesson on their own yet, right? They're just regurgitating. It's like the people who say, um, money's not gonna make you happy while chasing money.
Mhm.
While they themselves are chasing money and they don't even like it's completely disconnected. Good content is the ones that actually comes from a real life experience. They've experienced it, and therefore they're able to explain the lesson that they learned in their own life. The best content, like Jordan Peterson, is the one that can connect this to this and say, hey, you probably experienced this in life and this kind of scenario. The reason why that's happening is because of this thing. Do you understand what I mean? And those are the best content.
So he's connecting smart and good.
Yeah. In my opinion, that's what he's doing.
Hmm. Yeah. So this is why I don't post, because I don't have good content.
Well,
Um,
good content is from your own experience.
yeah, I don't
And I
have.
can kind of see, like, I don't know if you noticed that when you read the stories on Circle, the myth, truth sandwiches on Circle.
Mhm.
One thing that I see is some people, or a lot of people, write myth, truth sandwiches or lessons that I don't think they've actually learned.
Mhm.
Like, it's not a lesson that they learn from their own life. It's a lesson that they read in a book. But like, and here's how I know. If you say a lesson, right? Like, for example, if I say like the 5 second rule by Mel Robbins, right? Like,
Okay.
the longer you wait, like you just have to say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and boom, you have to do it, right? Motivation is garbage. You have to have discipline or that kind of lesson, right? And then I say, okay, give me an example. Give me an example from your own life when you've done that, and tell me a story. Like they can't. It means they haven't actually learned the lesson in their own life. They're just, or maybe they have learned it, but they didn't connect these two yet.
Mhm.
They don't know. They have this experience. Oh yeah, I remember like I went to this bar and this girl smiled at me, but I was like, I didn't go up to her and talk to her right away. I was just like overthinking. What should I say? Blah, 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 blah. And then like I got more scared and more scared, and then I just ended up not talking to her at all. Well, you've experienced it right there. That's the 5 second rule. You didn't apply the 5 second rule, and that's why you didn't do it. But you don't even know that those two are related.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
I see a lot of that actually. Like they read some lesson here and they're trying to make it sound fancy and oh, like that's why emotional pain isn't always like you cannot heal emotional pain like this, or like they try to use like the life coaching language or the therapist language or something like that to try to teach this lesson, but they don't know how to connect this to an actual experience that they had, because if they can, that's what makes the content good.
Yeah.
And I think it's because they're so focused on this and they're not focused enough on this, on their personal experience. For me, whenever I hear a theory like that, a lesson from some life coach or some therapist or some marketing expert, whenever I hear a theory like that, if I can't connect that dot to something an actual lesson that I've actually learned in my life, I just ignore it until I hear something that I can connect to.
Mm-hmm.
And then like sometimes I might ignore it because I haven't learned it, but then later on I did learn it, so now it makes more sense. You know what I mean? Like, I think everybody says be present, be present. Like, oh, like, you know, like you have to, stay in the moment, be present. But I think most people who say that shit don't actually know what that means. If you want to hear the rest of this conversation, go to sunE.co/subscribe or just click on the link in the description to get on my mailing list. It's totally free and you'll get the full episode in your inbox every week.